Thunderbolt tells the story of the new Avengers, who will fight anti-hero, has the power of overpower, such as a combination of all heroes from Marvel and DC. Also at the end of the film, Marvel will give us a crazy surprise. Starting showing a girl named Yolena Belova, who will do a mission, planning to plunge freely from the top of the tallest building in the land of Tiger Malaya. It turned out that Yolena had the task of destroying a research laboratory that had many guards. So she had to fight while telling where every day was really very bored, because he only did the same task repeatedly, while the guard was also tired of hearing Yolena telling stories like the principal. When Yolena was going to take an important file and prepare to destroy the building with a hidden bomb in the warmest place in the world, suddenly, a scientist gave a warning that the lab project Sentry was very dangerous. He asked to tell boss Valentina not to disturb this lab, but the mission must still be carried out, and the scientist accidentally shot himself. After that, she walked casually to report to Valentina if the mission was finished. Moving to Washington, D.C., we see Bucky Barnes has now become a member of the Congress, planning to immediately reduce the position of Valentina from the chairperson of the CIA. So, they held a hearing to drop out Valentina from his leadership in the CIA. The trial was attended by the committee and led by the regional judge, while Valentina, besides being the chairperson of the CIA, she was also the chairperson of Ox organizations, oriented about research to develop superhuman people. The government is suspicious if she is developing an illegal project against the state law. But because there was not enough evidence, finally Valentina could not be arrested or passed down from her position. And this victory was celebrated by drinking mineral water. After the trial, she ordered an assistant named Mel to eliminate by burning all the evidence of OX secret organizations. Moving to Yolena, who finished working on the previous mission, now returning home where her father named Alex or Red Guardian. Alex worked as a security service driver. He told many things to Yolena after moving to Washington. But after Yolena told me about Valentina, he was seen angry, revealing the bad side of her life. Both of them had not met for a long time, and Yolena felt empty about his life. She wanted to be happy by being a hero, to save the country, and also get support from American citizens. After that, Valentina gave Yolena a mission to go to an Ox facility that was in a secret place on the top of the hill, which turned out to get a mission to finish off the target that wanted to steal secret files at the facility. Yolena began to enter until he arrived in a room that stores a lot of files, one of which shows Project Sentry. Unexpectedly, John Walker appeared and attacked Yolena. The situation was more complicated when Taskmaster, Ghost, and a battle between them. Finally, Ghost defeated Taskmaster. Suddenly, a strange man who hid when they were all fighting. The man was named Bob, who looked scared. Elsewhere, Valentina held a charity event to cover up the decay and bad accusations. She also invited a committee, including a court judge named Gary, who said that what was done by Valentina was in vain. Bucky, who was also invited to the charity, tried to approach Mel to persuade she to leak something Valentina did. But it seemed difficult, so Bucky gave a business card and hoped it could change his mind to share confidential information. Back again the Ox headquarters, they were all confused and accused who was target in this mission. But eventually, they realized that this was all trap, because they got the same mission from Valentina to kill the target, which turned out to be gathered in this place to be destroyed together with evidence of illegal activities from Ox. John Walker was suspicious why Bob could be at this secret headquarters. But Bob was also confused why it could be in this place, and did not remember everything before. When Ghost will leave, suddenly she failed because the security system locked their strength. Elsewhere, Gary explained that the committee would definitely be able to prove Valentina's crime because it was only waiting for the evidence package in the trial. After that, Mel gave the news that if all evidence had been sealed in the dome, including the targets, Valentina was ready to execute them to only have 2 minutes to get out of that place before burning to ashes. This makes them argue to find a way out. Finally, they try starting to destroy the power barrier so that the ghost can go through the iron wall to open from the other side. So they survived the burning, made them bounce. Suddenly, Yolena entered into the past's memory, where she was forced to kill a child named Anya to pass the test, and Bob was also there. After that, Yolena woke up together with Bob, who touched his hand. Inside the limo, Mel gave the news that they were survived by the trap maid. Knowing this, Valentina immediately gave an order that all troops went to the headquarters to kill them, except Bob, who unwittingly, the limo driver was Alex. While John Walker is still curious about how Bob is looking for can be here, but Bob explained that he did not remember anything after being taken for medical studies. Then Bob tried to joke why Captain America didn't find out about it. Hearing that, John became angry, and when he touched Bob, he looked surprised. Luckily, Yolena stopped John. Then she tried to calm Bob, thinking that Bob was only an innocent civilian. In the conversation, Bob and Yolena have the same thing in their lives, that is, feeling empty. There is no purpose in life. Bob asked Yolena what she did if she was in void. According to Yolena, she only had to push deeper to find something in solitude. Elsewhere, Bucky got a call from Mel. And wait a minute, Bucky will put the hand after washing. Mel, finally willing cooperation, will share information about Valentina. At the headquarters, they were in the inactive elevator path. Then John Walker tried to jump, but the tunnel was too high to pass. So they have an idea by trying to rise in an anti-mainstream way. On the way to the headquarters, Mel finally learned the secret that Bob had the real name Reynold Robert, was a human who survived the Project Sentry, who was supposed to die in Malaysia. But he managed to survive the research. Finally, they managed to get out of the elevator path. When John held Bob's hand, he suddenly saw a dark past with his child and wife. When they were going out, they realized that they had been surrounded by Valentina's troops. So they compiled a plan to get out of the place, even though there was a debate who would be the leader. And finally, Yolena divided the task, while Valentine's troops began to enter the headquarters. John Walker waited for Yolena to turn on the lights so he could blind enemy troops. But it seems that the plan does not go well. Then the Walker remembers the words of Mr. Crab, "If you want good results, then do it yourself." And he immediately beat the troops. After that, they argue, but it just wasting time, so they disguised themselves into troops so they could get out of there. Luckily, Ghost managed to steal the car, and as soon as possible, they should be able to get out of the chaos. But when going to leave, suddenly there was an examination that made them unable to go through the identification process. Without suspected, Bob came out of the car to sacrifice himself so that they could all leave that place. And finally, Bob was shot by the troops. It turned out that Bob was still able to stand immune to bullets, and only his clothes were broken like homeless. Then Bob flew shot to the sky away from that place to make them all surprised. Unfortunately, as he approached the atmosphere, Bob suddenly fainted and fell back to Earth, quickly hit the ground, making a very powerful shockwave, made Yolena's car thrown. Finally, they learned that Bob was someone who survived the Sentry and the Golden Guardian, or Sentry project. The next day, many media reported the explosion in Desert. But Valentina covered the actual incident and would bring Bob back to New York. Elsewhere, they walked on the desert. Suddenly, the sound of a car approached at high speed. It turned out that it was Alex, who told that they would be burned at the OX headquarters, but they had finished passing it. They finally gathered in the limo, Alex told after hearing Valentina's conversation. He immediately followed until the Oklahoma, also talked about this anti-hero team and created the name of the Thunderbolt team, taken from the name of a soccer club where Yolena was once a member, and they have no problem with it or whatever. Then they realized that it was being pursued by Valentina's troops. Unfortunately, there was no way seen like a NASCAR race, because the speed of this limo was completely unreliable. Alex tells them to calm down because this limo is the same as the limo owned by the president's anti-bullet. But apparently not, and please drink vodka. The excitement must be celebrated together, such as sharing vodka with enemy forces. When Yelena decided to fight, suddenly the enemy car exploded. It turned out that it was Bucky who arrived to destroy Valentina's troops. This makes them excited to think assisted by Bucky. But finally, he also shot Limo to somersault. In another place, before the trial, Judge Gary told the press, if the committee was ready to provide strong evidence and federal prisons had been prepared for Valentina, therefore the Congress held an emergency session. While Valentina was in the Avengers building to hold Bob, she trying to persuade Bob, explaining that Bob was a human who survived a superhuman medical trial, also if provoked if Yelena was a criminal. Then Valentina hoped that Bob was willing to follow her because she knew everything about Bob. And when holding Bob's hand, she returned his past when he saw her father was killed. After that, Bob said he could control his strength. Valentina plans to show a superhuman result from Sentry's experiment, Bob, to everyone by inviting the press. Elsewhere, Bucky arrested them all because they would be used as evidence of Valentina's crime at the Congress hearing, although they all explained that if it had been trapped at the headquarters and would be eliminated together at that base, there was also a person named Bob from the results of experiment who had the ability of superhuman. But Bucky still did not believe that nonsense was, because their past was very bad. Then Bucky got news from Mel if Valentina would create a disaster because it would introduce Bob that was still unstable to the world. Hearing this, Bucky finally believed, so he freed them all to form Bob's rescue team against Valentina, and Thunderbolt agreed about it, while Bob continues to practice controlling strength, trying to boil water to save gas. Bucky and the others went to the Avengers building on the boxcar, while Alex was ready to fight even though the beard shaver was cheap and the package had arrived. People on the streets do not care if Marvel is making a film. After beating all the troops on the first floor, instead, Valentina invited them to go up to the performance of the show, where she was the host for this reunion moment. Valentina opened the event by insulting to assume they were only a group of people failed. And hey, who was this old Santa? After that, Bob appeared, which has now turned into Sentry, a very overpowered superhuman, like a combination of heroes from Marvel and DC. Valentina explained that the press was waiting where Sentry would prove the power by defeating this failed criminal, showed a new era for the security of Americans. Because Sentry has been provoked, there is no reason to resign to send criminals to prison, so that there is a very unbalanced battle. They were all unable and helpless against Bob, and even Bucky had to receive a blow from his own hand. Finally, they became a loser by escaping from there, using an elevator. Valentina told Sentry to eliminate the losers, but he considers they not a threat to him. They managed to get out of the building, In a feeling of despair, there was no way or how to beat Sentry, who was very overpowered. They blame each other because no one can defeat Sentry, who only shows their weaknesses, and think if Thunderbolt will disperse. While Bob thought why he had to follow all orders from Yolena, even though she said that Bob was stronger than all Avengers members. It appears that Bob has an unstable mentality that cannot be a hero of American, and for some reason, he feels very annoyed at Valentina. Luckily, Mel arrived immediately paralyzed Bob before she ran out of oxygen. Overpowered but inferior to stun gun? Impossible. Then they left Bob, who fainted and suddenly turned black. Returning to Alex, who tried to calm Yolena, because she really needed the figure of a father at this time. Yolena was very sorry for what had happened with her, who was very empty life, like going to work, and returned home without anyone waiting. She also regretted something that had been done during the exam on the Red Room in the past for eliminating the life of a girl. However, in the end, Alex calms Yolena if he will always be on the side of his daughter. Then they realized that everyone looked up if someone flew over the Avenger building, which turned out to be Bob Alter Ego, the dark side of Bob's personality, who had the power to eliminate anything. The situation of the city became chaotic due to many ruins that fell. The Thunderbolt team worked together to save all citizens. With this cooperation, they managed to save the citizens and there get applause from everyone. But when Red Guardian rescued a little girl, Black Bob eliminated the little girl and began to change the entire city of New York to darkness. They feel will not be able to fight Black Bob, and it's better to get away from there. But in contrast to Yolena, who deliberately approached into the Void World to save Bob, even though Alex tried to stop it. However, in the end, New York almost disappeared into the void. Yolena was trapped again in the memory of the past when killing a girl in the Red Room for the first time in a conscious state. And she tried to find a way out, but continued to get caught into other bad memories, like when Yolena made all her friends punished by someone. After that, she entered another memory, found himself in a state of depression and only drinking liquor in the room, while outside, they decided to enter the void to save Yolena and Bob. Finally, Yolena managed to meet with Bob, who was alone in a room. Yolena found out what really happened, and Bob explained that the black man was not him. The black man was the emptiness of Bob's personality, who was always depressed and there was no way to defeat him. And only this room can make Bob safe. Although under the floor, it shows the life of the Bob family, which is full of violence. Yolena understood about feelings and what Bob felt. So she convinced that he had to fight and prevent the void of control of ourselves because, in fact, many people cared, so they had to fight that void. Hearing this, Bob began to want to fight the emptiness in him. Suddenly, all the objects in the room attacked them. Fortunately, the Thunderbolt team arrived on time to save them, while the whole city almost disappeared, so they had to immediately find a way out through many places to meet Bob in the past, like when he became a fried chicken clown. Until finally they entered the Ox Lab. The place where the experiment was carried out showed the personality of the Void's Bob. Void attacks them all except Bob. Then, Void provoked Bob by saying if he was a loser who did not have anyone and no one cared, was also unable to do anything useful to help someone. This provocation succeeded in making Bob very angry, making two Bob fight. It turned out that the Void purpose was indeed provoking Bob to continue to be in a state full of hatred, so that Bob slowly became like Void. Feeling Bob in danger, they tried his best to escape from the trap, trying to stop Bob, who was out of control, by hugging and saying, if Bob would never be alone. Finally, they managed to return to New York, and Sentry's attack had disappeared, where everyone had returned from Void. Bob was confused about not remembering what had happened in the city. After that, they saw Valentina, and this was the right time for revenge. But when they pursued Valentina, suddenly the press was there to cover the news. Valentina took advantage of the chaos that occurred in New York and told the press if the savior of the city was the new Avengers. This makes them confused, and it is true that they are indeed the resource heroes of the city, making Alex smile crazy and whatever. After that incident, they became the main topic in various mass media about the new Avengers. At the end of the credit, Alex, who can already buy a beard shaver, is shopping at the supermarket offering cereal food that has a photo of himself to supermarket visitors. Jump to 14-month. Later, they have carried out their duties as new Avengers. Then, when checking photos from satellites, they see an extra-dimensional aircraft entering the Earth's atmosphere. And it turns out that the plane belongs to Fantastic Four. I am Fox, and thanks for watching.